think it might be a good idea to talk through a couple of these new signals that I've got. Okay, this one on the pound against the yen. I kind of like this short because it's quite a new signal, but also because there's a few things that shout out at me because of the price action. Um, these kind of legs are getting, or maybe I could use this even more fancier. Do you see?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
Getting
like
shallower.
yeah, like a rising wedge, and then like a double top here. This is the new signal, but
Yeah.
it's always a little bit tricky where to get your entry right, um, because there's like how many of these lows would you consider? You got to enter
Uh,
somewhere, right?
uh-huh.
You can see my entry. What do you think of that?
Well, if you draw a trend line from the bottom there,
Yeah,
no,
from
no,
oh sorry, okay,
so the trend line from, yeah,
something like
okay,
this.
yeah. So th- that's probably your answer.
It's already broken that trend line. You mean so? Um,
It has broken the trend line with a doji. The first, yeah,
this one.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
So that is the first sign. The second sign is that you have a double, probably triple top up there. It breaks, yeah,
this one, and then
two
this one.
and three. It breaks the trend line again,
Yeah.
yeah, there, and it doesn't bounce. So I would actually probably enter, um, uh, you know, the last sign you have,
The
uh,
last.
the last, well, a little bit earlier.
Okay.
I think that dodgy is just before the double top,
This one.
or even the other one.
This one.
No, the next one.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of those, I think the safest is probably the doji that broke the line,
Yeah.
and and that would be a good sign because you have two or three good indication from a technical analysis point of view that this is going to go down.
So your entry would kind of be. Let me just. This would kind of be the range that you were looking at.
Yeah,
So you would probably be already be in.
yeah.
Okay, that's fine. With this system, if your orders weren't filled overnight, then you wait until 10 o'clock to see what
uh,
happens.
yeah,
So this is the 10 o'clock candle, which is closed. Oh, sorry, the new 10 o'clock candle's just opened. So this is why the orders buy here. But I mean, there's the stops in the right place,
yeah.
and there's plenty of room to try and test. Maybe these lows.
Yeah.
It's worth a go, right? This one's a
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
straightforward
yeah.
trade.
I definitely think so. Another thing that I was doing when I was trading longer term time frames is that for some reason you have to wait for the new bar, and the new bar is at 10 o'clock, but you can have a peep at 8 and see where you are. So maybe you can enter a little bit better
Yeah.
um, on um, on the 8 o'clock, but that's just, I mean, it's your decision.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I think we covered that one pretty well. The other one we just had a signal on was um, this Aussie dollar, and I wanted to talk about this one because this is where my loss came overnight. So we can talk about the loss and then the new signal on the way down.
Yeah.
Um, This I drew up. I like to keep the charts naked as possible, but I like to
Yes.
mark them up with some kind of things so you can gain some like structure of the market. And the market was in this trend channel. Um, and looking back with hindsight, this is probably a risky trade just because I could have waited for this high to be breached. That would probably be the better entry. Um, in fact, we didn't even test this high, and
Well,
I ended up getting caught and sticking to the rules, um, and we got stopped out overnight.
yeah.
Would you have probably waited for this high?
Well, where you entered is fine. I would have actually been very careful about checking if the latest high was tested,
Yeah,
and that's been unfortunate because they didn't even try.
yeah,
What I was saying before is that the Australian government this week has announced some pretty big plans to deal with the coronavirus crisis. And we don't look at fundamentals when we trade lower time frame, but 4 hour time frame is long enough to consider fundamental.
right.
So there might be, I don't know because I haven't checked this, but there might be um, some more analysis to be done on the fundamental analysis kind of thing.
Yeah,
I suspect that that big rally was on the back of this announcement, although I can't tell from here. I'm sorry. Um, but would that have helped you avoiding this? Maybe. But what you did there was, yes, a little bit pushy, but totally justifiable.
yeah,
Uh, the it was just a spike. It looks definitely as if it was um, exhaustion bar.
yeah,
Um, the most important thing I always say it's the bar after. The bar after is going to tell you quite a lot. And if you see it, the bar after tried, didn't even go, yeah, didn't even go to the top, and then it collapsed.
yeah,
And that would have been a sign that probably because you know that you are in a little bit of a pushy trade,
yeah,
maybe you might want to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to take a small loss here and see and try to re-enter after the last big high.
yeah. You're right because this candle was the 6 a.m. candle. Is that right? 2 hours ago. Yeah, so it would have opened at 6 o'clock in the morning
Right.
on Tuesday. So yeah, that
You
means
see,
it closed at ten
that's the
o'clock.
other
You could, if
that's
you
the other
wanted to cut
reason
it
why
short, yeah,
yeah, why I'm saying if you're looking at 8 o'clock, even if the bar is not over, at 8 o'clock you would have seen probably that there was that kind of. But I'm not saying that you should stay in front of the screen all the time on a 4 hour bar, but 8 o'clock is usually something quite important. So
yeah.
the 8 o'clock and the 1:30, I will, if you can, I would stay in front of a computer and see what's going on.
No, I do, but the other thing is, which is important for me at the moment as well. I'm trying to improve my trading, but um, you know that I have a problem with moving trades to break even and getting out. So if
Yeah,
if the cons, there's pros and cons to it. This is probably one of the trades where I would have cut my losses a bit short. But there's definitely going to be some which work in my favor, that I stuck to the rules. Um, you know,
Absolutely.
so
This is a very good point. I mean, you're sticking to the rules, and that's absolutely fine. And I think that that's priority one. And
uh,
you know, you're gonna have losses. And what we're talking about here is that what would be the best possible outcome of all these kind of things. So, with hindsights, it's pretty easy.
yeah,
But but we are talking about how we could possibly have made it a little bit less painful, but you know, that's academic.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
The only thing that I would say is that you might want to think a little bit in sort of consistency. Um, so if you are aggressive on one thing, you might want to be aggressive on everything. And if you are more conservative on entries, you might want to be more conservative on stops. So the only other thing is that the low where you actually started tracing that channel line,
Yeah,
uh, it's probably a pretty important one. And if anything, you could have put the stop below that level, and you would still be in.
yeah. So something like that.
Yeah,
Okay. Um, well, this brings me on to the sell signal that we get now. Um, Let me just move this along. So it's this bar that we get a sell signal now.
yeah,
Um, this was where my stop loss was for the originals trade. So I was I was thinking about reversing the position,
uh-huh.
and entering where my stop loss was. So when I'd be stopped, I would enter with a new position short. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And probably the stop loss goes above here. And then I changed my mind because of this low.
yeah,
It's probably a stupid place to enter, right? I mean, this is the low, um, which was support for this trend channel. You would probably want to wait for it to be broken. So that means entering, I put my entry by here, and the stop loss above the top of these couple of highs of that small range overnight. Would you
but
think
yeah.
that stop is probably a little bit too aggressive?
um no, well, a couple of things. First of all, the the reversal makes sense in itself, because, as you pointed out, getting out of a channel, it's retesting the channel. It can't go up and go back to the channel. So the next thing should be, uh, yeah, on the downside.
Yeah,
Yeah, should be on the down. So there is no, and plus you have a signal. There is no doubt that that's a short.
yeah,
The only problem you have there is that low, and that low seems to be quite an important low, because it comes after 4 bars where you actually have a sort of pretty big retracement.
yeah,
It also, if you look at the that green horizontal line there,
yeah,
it looks that as if that horizontal line is just going through some levels, um, and it seems to be
do you mean
quite
here and here?
yeah, there. If you go back, look where the big news bar
Right, this one.
yeah, there. So it looks as if there is something there. So if you want to be conservative, you should look at that and enter on a break of that level there.
Yeah.
If you if you are more aggressive, well, in that case, you really want to check what's going to happen. The market test that last. At the moment, there's nothing going on.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but you might want to. This is what I mean when I say keep a trade on a tight leash.
Yeah.
Just if it's in a tight leash, your risk is lower, and you have to manage it a little bit more actively in a way, and you don't have to be afraid of getting out. And if the market goes your way without you, well, that's it.
Yeah.
But you see that's the thing. So the tight leash on that is you should have entered on the break of those two dojis. The stop should have been probably probably where the line is now, so on top of that,
Yeah.
and 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 trace a line just before the last low,
Yeah.
and see how the market reacts to that. Yeah,
Okay. Um, yeah, I like that. But if this is where my entry was, and I'll tell you why I moved it now, because this space to test is is well, if your stop is here, it's probably okay. But if your stop is here, you're risking this to try and test that. Does that make
that's
sense?
no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if you're using a sort of aggressive mode, you should really keep your stop quite tight,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and possibly risk less.
But what makes more sense to
You
me is if we wait for this low to be breached, you can see the green horizontal line is
Yeah,
actually where I want to enter.
yeah,
And then you put your stop loss above here. Um, there is more room to test this low
yeah,
than there is from here to test this low.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
if it breaks this support, um, we could see a test of this low and hopefully even down here. So
yeah,
that's my reason for moving for the entry down here. This was the bull's chance to break
yeah,
to break this high. It didn't work, so uh, I didn't want to be stuck in this range trying to trade breakouts here and breakouts here to the upside and
yeah.
breakouts here to the short, because you're
No,
kind of in
i
no
i
man's land.
exactly. So you want to take the more conservative approach, and it's exactly what you're doing there. On
Cool.
the more conservative approach, you might want to consider to be conservative on the stop as well, and put the stop a little bit higher.
So probably up here.
Yeah,
Okay. And then let me just, sorry, if you enter here, that is 29, almost 300 points. So the first target is down here. Yeah, but these are the kind of discretionary decisions that uh, will have to be made, and different traders come up with different things, right?
exactly.
So
And this is down to your personality. So if you want to have more action, you want to be consistent on a more active approach. If you are concerned about taking losses and so on, and it's better to take less trades but with higher probability. So and you want to take a more conservative approach. Now I understand your point that you're looking at one-to-one risk reward. So if you put the stop too high, then the target has to be too low, and blah 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 and so on. But that doesn't really cut it, I think. Uh, the market doesn't really give a shit about your 1 hour or 1 to 1 or that sort of things. I think you should look at levels.
Yeah.
And if it's a matter of risking one to take 0.75, uh, that's fine if the probability of getting it is quite high.
Yeah.
And you have all the time. If you enter there and you put a stop up, um, and the market breaks down, uh, by the time it tests the target where you have it now, even if it's not 1 to 1, you will have a pretty good idea of what the market is going to go, what the market is going to do at that level.
Yeah.
At that level, it might well be that it goes through or it bounces, and you have enough time and space to do something about that trade.
Yeah. So if you are a more hands-on trader and you're by your desk all day, then it's probably worth taking a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think we've talked about this one. I'm just going to work backwards. We don't have to spend so much time on the on each trade, but